All right, here we are on lecture three, the importance of physical activity experience. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we can get started with this lecture. All right, so with this lecture, we are still talking about our physical activity experiences, but we're going to talk mainly about how important they are and how they shape us. So, our lecture objectives, we're going to look at factors that influence our experiences, and then talk about some other terms like how to develop skill through practice versus through physical capacity, difference between generalist and specialist, and then our subjective experience, and then factors that affect our enjoyment of physical activity and sport watching. So first we have some definitions. So you can read this definition yourself and know what that definition means. PAE for this lecture is physical activity experience. So anytime you see that, that's what that means. We know as kinesiologists, we are experts at designing, manipulating the experiences that we have during exercise, because we want to bring about a desired end in people, and we want them to feel something from the activity that they do, whether that be an improvement in a sports skill, their overall sport performance, or just their health and well-being. We're trying to pull something out of that experience and give them that desired end. This question here is also a question on your discussion board, and it's talking about how parents influence their children's physical activity levels. So, do inactive parents produce inactive children? So, on your discussion board, you're going to read these two questions here, and you're going to ask yourself, or basically just kind of play with the idea of this and kind of talk about what you think. This YouTube video here at the bottom also talks about how there may be a genetic link to being physically active or being lazy. So please watch that and answer these questions on the discussion board. What we want to talk about is development of skill through practice versus the development of physical capacity. And so they're different and they exist on a spectrum. And so we'll look at that spectrum and we'll look at how we can move across the spectrum, and how these outcomes can be modified by the performer. All right, so here is the spectrum. So on one side, we have skill development, practice, and motor learning. So we're refining a skill, but we're practicing it over and over and over again. And then there's some sort of motor learning process or pattern that takes place in the body that means we have developed that skill. And on the other side, we have physical performance capacity, how well we can do something like physically. Usually is dependent on how hard we train, as well as how conditioned we are, like what type of conditioning we're doing. You look down here from the very bottom, video game playing, all the way over to jumping jacks. And as we move across the spectrum, one side is more practice and the other side is more training. And so I want you to kind of look at this and contemplate it yourself, and kind of figure out, okay, thinking about a tennis serve or golf putt, like, is that more practice or training? Well, over here, it's a lot of practice. We look over here to sawing a board, blocking an opponent, doing jumping jacks, more training, having higher physical performance capacity. So we're on the spectrum of looking at all these different activities. And then that comes with these definitions. And so you do have to know these definitions, but I'm going to split them up into two categories. The first three, motor skill, practice, and learning, go together. The bottom three, physical performance capacity, training, and conditioning, go together. Okay. And so if you want to compare and contrast them, it'd be like motor skills relates to physical performance capacity, practice, training, learning, conditioning. So those are basically the opposites when we have these two categories. I've highlighted or colored words, and then I've also have some italicized words. So when learning these definitions, those are kind of the words that you want to associate in the definition to the actual term itself in order to learn it for your quizzes and exam. When talking about practice versus training, when we really break it down, practice is a lot of the brain and spinal cord. We see central nervous system processing, memory, cognition, perception, and all those other central nervous system processes and activities that allow us to learn a skill. Training is peripheral. So this is everything that affects the muscles, the bone, the any soft tissue, cardiorespiratory system. So this is our periphery. So our training, our conditioning is improved in this bottom part, whereas like practice and learning a skill is the top part. So, when we think about a physically fit person, we have three things here that don't actually, or maybe it's something you wouldn't normally think of when you think of a physically fit person. Um, but if you can say yes to these three here, you are technically considered to be physically fit. You can perform the essential activity of daily living at a high level. Like you don't need help doing, like getting ready for the day or doing any of your activities around the house. You have enough energy remaining to pursue an active leisure lifestyle. Like you can walk your dogs, you can play with your children, you can work out. So you can pursue this active lifestyle after you've done all your essential activities. And then you can also meet the unexpected physical demands that emergencies may impose. So think of an emergency where you have to be physically active in order to either rescue somebody or save something or produce a lot of force or energy, sprint, lift something heavy in whatever emergency that's going on, you have enough energy to do that. If you can do all of those, you're considered to be physically fit. Next, we're looking at generalist versus specialist. So I want you to read through this, talking about being a generalist and having experience in a broad range of skills and activity versus a specialist who has a very narrow range. When we think of a generalist, it's somebody who can do a lot of things, but they may not be perfect. But they can participate in those activities and they can probably do them pretty well, but they are not specialized in one area. Whereas a specialist, they devote themselves to being perfect in one area. So it could be like a small range of things like dance. Like I am good at ballet, I can do hip hop dance, I can do jazz dance, I can do ballroom dancing. Like I have a lot of skills in how I move my body in a rhythmic way. But I really can't do anything else. I can't play soccer, I can't golf, I can't play tennis, I can't go skiing, whatever it is. And so think about what category you fall into. There's advantages and disadvantages of each. Obviously, an advantage of being a generalist is you can enjoy lots of different activities, but the disadvantage of that would be you never feel the satisfaction of being perfect in one activity. Whereas a specialist is basically the opposite. Your advantage is you have achieved the highest level possible of skill in a certain area. And your disadvantage is you can't really do any other activities very well. So think about which one you are. We're also going to talk about abilities here. And where did your abilities to do whatever you do, physical activity wise or sport wise, where did that come from? We know that abilities are the building blocks of the experiences that we have. And they're also genetic predispositions. And so it's something we get genetically from our ancestors that offer either advantage or disadvantage. It could be height, it could be body shape and size, it could be fast twitch fibers versus slow twitch fibers that contribute to our performance in a certain activity. But these abilities, they offer potential. And so they set us up to be good at something. But what really comes into achieving that highest level of competency is practice and training. So have we practiced and practiced and practiced a skill? And have we trained in this area and developed our physical capacity? Well, both of those plus whatever ability that we have gets us to that highest level. This here looks at comparing and contrasting different body types. If you glance at them, this guy like looks the same. But if you break it down and read the little paragraph for each one, you can see how each body is different and how certain areas in the body, such as broader shoulders and shorter legs and a small torso or a broad chest, contribute to performance in a certain area. This link down here at the bottom also shows you different body types and how they've evolved over the years and how we now know like what types of bodies are best for which types of sports. So it's a pretty cool YouTube video that you can look at. Now, I want you to think about your physical activity experience, whether it's a sport that you played in high school, a sport you played in college, or whatever physical activity that you do right now. Did you inherit your ability to do that well, or did you just practice and train really hard and that's how you got there? Next is talking about something that we call heart. And for a lack of better word, it's just this ability to dig down deep and push harder than we've ever pushed before. And so if you kind of skim through this paragraph, I think it's a really cool description of how when we're exercising and doing something so taxing on the body, our brain actually sends signals to the body telling us to stop, saying, hey, or I think it's backwards. Our body sends signals to the brain saying, hey, let's stop exercising because this is really hard. This is really intense, and I'm starting to feel some pain here. Elite athletes have that ability to actually push past those signals. They can ignore them, and it's usually why they come in first and they break the record and they win the medal. And for a lack of a better word, we call this heart, digging down deep, finding that extra energy that is needed. But my question is, do we believe in this heart? Is this something that we think is real, or is everything that we do in life and physical activity, is it based solely on our abilities alone? Again, something to just kind of think about. Next is talking about unobservable emotions. So here we're in subjective experiences. These unobservable emotions, things we cannot see and only the individual can feel. And so I want you to think of the emotion or the unobservable thoughts, cognitions that we get from exercise, whether it be an emotional state, a cognition, something you think about, a disposition, like your attitude towards how you feel about it, your knowledge about something, and the meanings behind the activities that you do. And so this is kind of a different direction that we're taking, and it's all about everything on the inside that we feel and experience from physical activity. First is these immediate subjective experiences. These happen during the activity, like the second we do it. We can think of crossing a finish line, winning a race. They're instant emotions, they're cognitive impressions. The second statement I like, basically saying that the awareness and the ease of recognition of those impressions, they improve with other experiences that we have. And so other experiences that we have, maybe similar, related to that one activity that we did, the awareness and ease of the recognitions of our feelings, those improve with more experience. Then we have replayed. Replayed, which is a reflection. So we're reflecting, we're thinking back to that activity. What we're doing is we're replaying in our head the visual. What did we see? What did we hear? What did we feel during that activity that we did? When we put those experiences into context, it makes things more meaningful. When we think back on something, when we reflect and contemplate how great that experience was, when we put it into context, like, wow, I really was the best runner of my age group in 2015 in the US, whatever it is. I really was the best quarterback in 2024, even though I did not, excel. We did not go to the playoffs, whatever it is. But when we put it into context, it does become more meaningful. And so just be able to differentiate immediate experiences versus when we replay them in our head. Next is briefly talking about factors that influence our physical activity. So first, it's the factors are related to the activity itself. I want you to think about an activity that is really challenging versus that you're easily able to do. When something is so challenging and hard and you can't get it at all, it usually decreases our enjoyment because we're like, this is so hard, I can't even do it. Versus if something is so easy, you do it over and over and over again, you get bored. So we need a balance between being really, really challenging and being really, really easy. We also need clear goals and we need feedback. We need to have a goal in mind. What is my goal? Because if we don't have goals, then we're just running around aimless and we can't really figure out kind of what the purpose is. We also need feedback. I need to do something and I need somebody to tell me, what did I do wrong and how can I fix it to hit that goal and to make it perfect? And then usually we need competition. That can be with somebody else, or it can be within yourself, that interpersonal competition. And so any type of competition where you're pushing yourself to do better usually improves your enjoyment. Next is your disposition and attitude. Having a positive attitude, having a clear disposition, having good feelings towards the activity, usually you're going to like it better. This is hard if you've had a poor negative experience in the past. Usually those can be changed, but they're harder to have more positive attitudes and disposition after you've already had a bad experience. So this can affect our enjoyment. And then the social context. Do you exercise or like to exercise alone or with others? Do you need a social support system to exercise during your workouts, or would you rather be by yourself? The environment. Do you want to exercise indoors or outdoors? Your sense of perceived freedom. Are you exercising and doing this activity because you want to personally, or is somebody making you? Do you have the freedom to choose what activity that you desire to do the most? So this sense of perceived freedom also affects our enjoyment. Music. I want you to think about, do you listen to music when you exercise? I am somebody who does. I love to run to music and it's so much fun to me. But some people may not like to. You can read through this right here and look at this study because basically we're looking at how, yeah, like I may enjoy the workout more, but did it make the workout harder or easier when I did that exercise? And then this YouTube video here at the bottom is a cool little video that shows you how music is actually used in sport performance. And then kind of finishing up, we're looking at vicarious participation, which is anytime we are watching a sport live or on TV and we feel like we are so engaged in it that we're the ones playing. It's our team, and we want to win. And even though we're not on the team, we may have feelings towards a player or the whole team in general, and we are vicariously living through that activity. Or disinterested sport watching. This is a form of watching where we actually don't care about the outcome. We may not have a favorite team, but we want to just see a good game. This actually does not result in less enjoyment. You can still enjoy a game, even if you don't have a favorite player or you don't have a favorite team. You just want to see some really good skill. You want to see some really good performance. And so these two types of performance kind of mainly affect how we enjoy watching sports. So think about which one you usually lean towards. And then last, what are some things that affect our enjoyment of watching sports? Knowledge of the game. Usually you will enjoy a sport more if you actually know the rules, if you know what's going on. I'm sure there's some sports out there that you watch and you're like, I have no idea what these rules are because I've never played this game. I don't watch it. And so again, the more you know, usually the more you enjoy. Just like a second ago, I said vicarious experience where we have feelings towards a team or a player. And then last is human drama. We like sometimes that bitter rivalry between two teams or that friendly competition that we see a lot. One thing we don't like is injury. We'll talk more about some big injuries that happen in sports, and usually this makes us sad or makes us sick, and we just don't enjoy watching people get hurt. But besides injuries and people getting hurt on the field, these other stuff is kind of just fun. It makes it more fun to watch. You do have a quiz, and here is your review that you can pause, take a picture of, write down, whatever, to prepare for that. Okay, that is it for this lecture. And I hope you enjoyed it. And this finishes up all of what we're doing for our first week. And we'll move on to the next week or the next module in just a little bit. Okay, bye.